Hello, Team Sam. How are you doing? It's great to be chatting to you today. Welcome back to the bedroom, otherwise known as the office, for the last 18 or so months. Let's hope sooner rather than later I'm able to get back into the church office because I find it hard working from home sometimes, and I just need a bit of a. I find I need like a community that I can just sit around and work with and spend time chatting away with because that's what I like to do. The best part of my week is when I get to do my Tuesday in-person church ministry leaders meeting, and I get to go and hang out with actual people and talk to them. So that's amazing. Wanted to give you a video just as a little update for how some stuff's been going in my role with Fusion and my role with Greyfriars Church, and in my studying as well, because there are three things that I do and three things that you guys all support me in across my ministry, where I reach out to churches and student work, where I do my own student work, and where I am learning at the moment, doing some theological study. So I initially wanted to do this video previously, and there you go. I might cough during this because I'm currently recovering from COVID. We were lucky enough as a Fusion team to go away together to Wydale Hall, which is a Christian retreat centre just outside Scarborough in North Yorkshire. That would have been 2 weeks ago now. We were lucky to go away together, but I came back and didn't feel great, and took some tests and discovered that I was COVID positive, and then went down with symptoms and had to spend 11 days here in my bedroom. Thankfully, praise God, my housemates stayed negative, but it did mean that I had to stay here in the confines of my room for 11 days whilst I beat off the symptoms and recovered. So yeah, it was a lot of kind of like rest and sleeping, but was really good. And then this week has been my first week back at work, which hasn't been massively easy. I'm noticing that obviously I've got a bit of a cough, and I'm really kind of like weary and things tire me out more than they used to, and like I ended up like being 5 minutes late to meet the vicar, because what is normally a 10-minute walk for me just took me a little bit longer, and I got there and I was a bit out of puff. But so I'm in the process right now of recovering from COVID, and would appreciate prayers in that. Just that I can get back quite quickly to my kind of usual busy, active lifestyle, and that the kind of cough that I have wouldn't kick around for too long. But yeah, no, it's been a good first week back. It's my first week as well on our regional, our South regional team here at Fusion. So I have mentioned it before, but if you missed it for whatever reason, I had been on our London regional team, working under the previous gaffer, as she was, Catherine, and working with churches all across Greater London. We had a number of people come and join us on the London team, which was a massive answer to prayer and something that we'd kind of been praying for in terms of recruitment. There were a number of jobs that we advertised for and were able to appoint to. So a guy called Daniel, who came up from Portsmouth to do the same job as me, whereby he was appointed by a church to be their student worker at the same time as Fusion appointing him to work in London. So he came to London to do that. We appointed a few other people as well. Actually, someone was appointed who is based in Norwich. So for those of you who might know her, Lauren Fern has joined the team, and she is based at Vineyard in Norwich. So if you come across her or someone from Vineyard, Lauren is amazing and has joined our team. So basically, we swelled out to a team of 7, and I realised that down in the South region, where my friends Ben and Molly, my colleagues Ben and Molly were based, they had to look after this whole region just by the two of them. And I looked at my position here in Reading and thought, actually I'm based pretty well to be able to give them a hand on that team. So I approached my bosses back in kind of January time to be like, is it worth thinking about a transition from one regional team to another? And that's now official. So I am, as of this week, starting to work with new churches in new cities. So I'm working with churches in Reading, obviously, but also Winchester, Guildford and Plymouth, which is a new challenge and something that I'm really enjoying even just 1 week in. It's interesting to see how different regional teams within Fusion can have different working styles and different management styles. So it's meant that I've changed line manager as well. So Ben, who is my regional team leader, is now also my line manager, which is amazing. We get on really well. and so he's based down in Southampton, so I'm spending a lot of my time or will be spending a lot of my time kind of commuting down there and spending time in some working space that the church has based in a local church, which is amazing, and I've been there and checked it out already, and it's very exciting. And yeah, so that's really good. So it's been a great week of kind of getting in touch with new church leaders and being introduced to new church leaders for the first time, and getting on really well with them, and scheduling in loads of like phone calls and meetings. And then the hope is that later on this kind of, we have like quarters, and the quarter comes to an end by the end of August. So by the end of August, we're hoping that as a South team, we'll be able to do excuse me, a trip down to, where was it we wanted to go? We wanted to go Exeter, Plymouth and Falmouth, like all in one trip. So 3 of us, myself, Molly and Ben, the idea would be that we'd go off and visit churches in each of those 3 cities. So yeah, I'm going further afield now. And so to meet those churches and to encourage them in their mission to reach students in their universities, resource them, equip them with all the amazing stuff that we have at Fusion. So yeah, that's been going on, which is amazing. And I think, yeah, it's going to be really encouraging to see how I can, work with these churches in these towns and cities. But it's quite a lot for me to learn. That's something I'm realizing as well, that you have to kind of, in each place, you learn not only a new church culture of like, what does it look like for churches to work together, or maybe not work together in some cases. And that's quite hard, because you kind of realize there's a lot of pre-existing tension and kind of rocky ground for some churches. There's not always been great unity in different places, and you kind of will be chatting to one church and another church will come up and it'll turn out there's been like a big history of not a load of nice things. So that's quite challenging, but also to learn a whole new student culture, because being a student in Norwich means a totally different thing to being a student in Reading, and means a totally different thing to being a student in Falmouth or Plymouth or Winchester. So I'm learning a lot, and I'm expecting to learn a lot. So please pray for me in that process. We wrapped up the academic year at Greyfriars. So that ends my 2nd full year of being a student pastor, which feels amazing to say. And a challenging year in many ways, obviously, because we weren't able to gather students in the way that we would want to. But we ended the year with a student takeover service. So I have kind of been limited to investing in students one-on-one this year. And so one of the things that we did to finish the year was I gathered as many of those as I could, and some others, and released them into different parts of, like leading a church service. So we had students to lead worship, we had students to lead and host the service, we had students sharing testimonies on prayer, and then one of my students came and preached, opened a new sermon series that we've got in our church at the moment about Nehemiah. And that was unbelievable for him to get up there. He did so well, Jacob. So I was just delighted to see the way that all the students stepped up to kind of help deliver a church service to their mates that they invited who don't even know Jesus yet, but also the wider church, because I think the students have so much to kind of communicate to the church about, here is how we've been experiencing God, here's what God's been doing in our year, because it's not been easy for them, but there are some amazing testimonies out there of what God's done, and they kind of range all the way from kind of like God being near them in times of suffering, to them bringing their mates to Jesus. We've got a fantastic example of one of my students that I've been spending a lot of time with this last year. She's been walking with 2 of her housemates who don't know Jesus yet, and they've been doing the Alpha Film series together, and one of them, praise God for her, has come to know Jesus within the last sort of like month and a bit. And we are just, we're thanking God for what we've seen there. And I've also wrapped up my studying for the year. So I have 2 years of study. I've finished one. I was able to get my best mark of the year in my last essay, which was good. And also really weird, because like that one was, I had I didn't have much time to do it, and I kind of had to churn it out in 2 or 3 days. And I got like a much higher mark on that one than I did on other ones that I'd spent like weeks on, like preparing and changing the plan over a long period of time and reading a lot around it. But yeah, this one I just kind of had to go for it in a short period of time, but apparently that's how I work. But no, really happy with how that first year came to a close. So my second year of study begins in September, again with like intensive teaching residentials where I have lots of lectures in a short period of time. And this year is going to be really kind of getting into lots of stuff about student ministry and kind of like sociological study of what makes young adults and young people tick. One of the things that I found out as I was doing a module this year was I was reading like some study that a research team had done. I think it was in like Czechoslovakia or somewhere, but they'd studied like all across different case studies from Western Europe, and they'd realised that if you consider like, you know, what do you consider to be your identity? If you asked a young person that, would you be sure in your identity? It was around 20% of 18-year-olds would say that they were sure in their identity, that they were like, this is what my identity is. But then if you went to 21, that number had shot up to about 65%. So that means that in the 3 years that most people in Britain go to university, young people are becoming sure of their identity. So something's happening in the 3 years that they're spending at university that makes them say, yes, this is me, this is who I am, this is what makes me tick. And that's amazing to me, that young people are arriving at university ready to explore and ready to confirm who it is that they are in their identity. And that encourages me in my job as I seek to pastor to these students here in Reading, but also to go to places like Winchester, Plymouth, Guildford, and say, hey, you know, this is what's out there. This is the state of play. This is the state of affairs. The students are arriving. They don't really know who they are, and they're getting to graduation at the end of third year, and then something's changed, and now they know who they are. And wouldn't it be amazing if that identity that they were comfortable in by the time they got to 21 was an identity that was grounded in Jesus? So that's the thing that's kind of driving me at the moment, and the example of how, you know, studying is making a real difference to me in my job, and I'm excited to learn a whole lot more in my second and final year. Your support prayerfully and financially is making all this happen, and I thank God for each of you every single day. I can't believe that I get to live like this, that I get to thank you in this way, and just that all of your generosity and all of your kindness, please know that it's so joyfully and gleefully received. Every single penny, I say it every time, but every penny of it really is prayed for. And I'm so delighted that I can be in a position where my partner raising is comfortable, yeah. Like the amount that I raise, the amount that you are so generous in giving, it's all there, and I don't have to, you know, lie awake at night worrying about not having enough, because I do, and that is because of the generosity of the Father that is worked out through each of you. So I thank you every single day for all that you continue to give, guys. Please let me know how I can pray for you. I've mentioned a few things over the course of this video for how you can be praying for me, but just to reiterate, please pray for my health. That would be really good, I think, as a kind of like immediate thing. Just to say as well that I will be in Chesterfield from the 1st of August for a week. So if you're keen for a coffee, I really am. So let me know, and love to hang out. I'm going to be in Norwich at some point, kind of mid to late August. I'm really sorry that I don't have confirmed dates for that yet. But again, I'm really eager to see as many of you as I can, because you're amazing, and I want to catch up and hear about what's been going on in your lives. You're all fantastic, and please let me know how I can be praying for you, your families, your loved ones at the moment. And yeah, also the last thing is to say, some of you will have filled out a gift aid form, but if you haven't, or you don't think you have, I'm going to put something in the email this goes out in, that's like a link to an online form that you can fill out. So if you don't think you've done that, ask me and I can go and check. And then if you haven't, it'd be great if you could fill out that form, just because it means a little bit more money for Fusion. So if you're a UK taxpayer, please do ask about gift aid. Thank you so much once again, and I hope you have a lovely day. I can't stop it. Wait, there we go.